What's good, everyone? I'm IAnthonyD. Welcome back to another Texas Chain Saw Massacre video. In today's video, we'll be breaking down the community thoughts on the newest family member, and that is Hands. Does he need a cooldown? Does he need a nerf? Does he need a buff? But before we do that, make sure you slash that like button and subscribe with notifications set to all so you don't miss out on future horror gaming content here on the channel. All right, let's do this. The latest DLC content for TCM has been released, and that comes with two new characters. Maria, who is actually alive. Can you believe it? I've been telling you since day one you didn't want to believe me, dude. That's on you. But listen, Maria we'll talk about in the next video. We're talking about the newest family member, Hands. This big 7'9", 500 pounds, big show looking great quality is here, and he stirred up some controversy with mainly his huge amount of abilities. This guy gets like every superpower possible, but also more importantly his rip stall ability, which gives him the ability to rip out fuses or instantly turn off the battery or generator. These types of things have led to some conversations in the community. We're going to get into it, and as always I want to hear what you think down below, so make sure you comment. Make the cooldown on rip stall slightly longer. Not asking for a 10-minute cooldown, but definitely like maybe 3 minutes. I can definitely get on board with a 3-minute base rip stall cooldown. Increase rip stall cooldown and buff his barge. It's so bad for how hard it is to hit. This brings up a good point. Jumping back to when I said that Hands has a ton of different abilities, what that is he has electric traps that he can place on metal objects or doors, gates, things like that. He also has a barge ability where he can tackle you, grab you, throw you on the ground, similar to Leland's. And then he has his rip stall ability, as well as a perk that actually lets him break down Leatherface barricades, which is kind of huge. But when it comes to his barge ability, it is very awkward to hit sometimes. It doesn't work exactly like Leland. So a buff to that is something that I would actually be okay with. Give the rip stall charges, like only 2 rip stalls a game. Remove his electric traps. Have him focus on being the muscle character of destroying barricades, ripping fuses and valves out, high attack damage, and shoving victims to the ground. He shouldn't be a mixture of strength and traps from Leatherface, Hitchhiker, and Leland. Have him drop the fuse and valve handles, making victims have to pick it up and reinstall it. Hands needs some fine tuning, but not much. His traps and barges are fine where they are, but his rip stall should be adjusted slightly. Increase the cooldown for all objectives, and when you ripstall Danny's tamper, there should be a longer minigame and or even a longer cooldown. Seems fair since Danny is spending most of his time studying objects around the map, even if it's instant study. This is another thing that's been brought up a lot and talked about in the community. Hands is a direct counter to Danny's tamper ability. If Danny studies everything and pulls off a tamper on like the valve or whatever, Hands has the ability to just walk up and rip it out and completely negate all the work that Danny has done. Some people are for this, some people are against this. For Hands to obstruct an item, he needs to go through a minigame similar to Danny's. This minigame takes a short time, but after passing, the item is destroyed. If the item has been tampered, it needs to go through another minigame to finally destroy it. For Danny, when an item is tampered, the family member to disable the tamper needs to go through a minigame and finally be able to turn on the battery / generator or turn on the fuse / valve. Ripstall 1 ejected per match and a ripstall cooldown similar to Connie's. I think the barge ability should be removed in favor of him being a grappling king, because I think it makes sense for him to be a grappler, and him having an extra ability that no one else has feels off. The dude is huge, and grappling him should be super risky. His barge also feels bad anyway. It feels like he gets stunned longer than the victims do. Hands is alright the way he is now. He is counterable by proper coordination. Some people believe that Hands is not that big of a deal if you just don't focus on one objective at one time. By spreading out your objectives and using team coordination, they think that Hands is okay. I've even seen victim teams now having Danny's tamper different objectives and then having another victim who has Choose Fight ready to go to stab Hands before he can actually rip stall the objective. So there are different ways to play against Hands. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to play him a ton to give my opinion on this, but I do think that a small cooldown wouldn't be the end of the world. But as always, what's important to me is what you think. So let's talk about it down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, slash that like button, subscribe, and notifications set to all. I'll see you in the next one, but remember to follow the rules. Don't do drugs, don't have sex. Oh yeah, don't die.